Welcome to another match preview where we look ahead to the FA Cup clash with the Stones heading to Herne Bay for a place in the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup. So before we look ahead again once more to that potential magic of the FA Cup, we must look back at an entertaining game that felt like a loss, the 2-2 home draw with Chesham. So close to that first home league win, Nigel, but set-piece defending the Stones' Achilles heel once more this season.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, we've said it before many times. Games that we've looked good defensively, we haven't looked that good going forward. And then when we look good going forward, especially that second half against Chesham, we shoot ourselves in the foot. It's that getting that balance right again, isn't it? Yeah. I've seen it's divided opinion on the social media and on the fans forum, who's at fault for that first goal. Was it Alexis Andre Jr.? Was it George Fowler? Do you know what I mean? But it's sort of like, people are saying that Alexis shouldn't have come rushing out, but that's the modern way. We saw that many times with Coughlin last year, didn't we? And in fact, we had that incident with Coughlin and George Fowler in that Barrow game. That goal was conceded through that, again, by, just a miscommunication. But hopefully these things can be ironed out in training. These are the things that you need to understand. You need to know that, as a defender, where the lines are for your goalie. If your goalie's going to come out, you've got to allow for that. Do you know what I mean? It's just something that's got to be worked out, hasn't it? You made some cracking saves in that game, Alexis, and the defence in open play stood up well. I mean, Miniz was a threat throughout, wasn't he? But I think the Stones kind of handled him really well, sort of thing. And again, that last goal, yes, it was probably a miscommunication, who was picking up the guy at the back. But again, that shot was just drilled across the box, as you would in the last second of the game, and you just got a wicked deflection, or you need it into the net. And like I've said many times, it does feel like a loss, but it's just like, it's one of those frustrating ones, isn't it? Where you're doing everything right, and then something like that goes against you, and a few sort of refereeing decisions and linesmen, giving the wrong calls, but then you look back at that, that goal we conceded. That last minute of that game, John Benton took the ball down into the corner and tried to win a corner, but it got a deflection off of him, or not quite a throw in, sorry. Got a deflection off of him. They got the throw in. Long throw, Corley's long throw up the pitch. Got him up the pitch. Shaq committed to just take the ball down the corner. Let the player come to you. Put your ball, yourself between the ball and the defender or the attacker, and just let them make the foul, and you'll get the foul in that way. So, it's just about thinking smart, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And not just, yes, you can isolate the set pieces, but it's the all-round team play, isn't it? Don't give away a free kick in that situation. They're going to. It's the last second. It's the last action of the game. They're going to just throw the ball into the box and just hit and hope, aren't they? And it's literally what they did. So you can't legislate for that. You can't train for that. It's just about that repetition of training together and sort of getting all scenarios sort of ironed out, and to sort of stop it at a source, really, rather than for it to get to that situation. But it is what it is. It's where we are, and again, Chesham were celebrating at the end, and like they, won the game, and it feels like a loss. But there certainly were some good signs there. I think, Blair's goal was, really good, and I think you said it on commentary, didn't you? Like sexy goals. Do you know what I mean? It's people are saying, you want us to play in a certain way, and you can see that style coming out. And Papadopoulos and Benton, they add that to us. They give that, that X factor to our forward play. But it's just about getting that all-round sort of team package where we're compact at the back and we can be that expansive, open style that all the fans want to see, and scoring goals for fun. But again, it's one of those that you look at that you think it's coming. There's going to be a game down the line where we're going to sort of, similar to the Worthing game last year, where a rival that you're expected to be up there, and you're just going to put 4 past them. It's just going to be one of those games. Hopefully, that's just around the corner. So,
fingers crossed. So a quick word on the departures from last week. Firstly, Sam Smith and Riley Court going on loan to Hythe, and then Bruno Andrade's release, Nigel. Game time key to all 3 of those departures, temporary or otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, isn't it, for the youngsters? Obviously they've got a big future in the game, whether that's with us or whether that's in senior men's football, but to go out and get get that sort of game time, real time experience is going to be good. And I believe they're sort of still in and around the club. They're not sort of cast out in the cold as such. So they're here training, and they're still very much part of the team ethos that George is trying to build here. So yeah, it's good for them to go and get their minutes, isn't it? And for Bruno, it was always going to be one of those that, as a trial basis, you know, it excites you at the beginning of the season because you sort of think of those memories and that time that he's been our nemesis playing for Boreham Wood, but he just never hit those heights, is he? He looked good in the pre-season, but yeah, he's just, you know, through whether like a little niggling injury he got in that St Albans game, and he just wasn't up to speed. And you know, with the new players coming in that we've just brought in, like with Papadopoulos and Trusty and the new forward we've got in, you know, it's somebody's had to go, and you'd imagine that, you know, it's just about getting that budget and the playing balance right, isn't it? So
you combine that also with Corn possibly being back for the Herne Bay game. You've got Kipson Brown potentially back in training very soon and playing shortly after that. So that squad is sort of expanding somewhat. So you can see why, you know, those three coming back. And George
has said, you know, hasn't he? You know, it's by no means this is not going to be. You know, it will be the squad going forward, but they're always looking for new additions. So obviously, if you're working to a budget, if any new additions that come in, players will go out. You know, and there will be players, you know, that are in the squad now that will go out on loan or whatever, be released. You know, and if there's a long-term injury, you know, that obviously plays into that as well. But you know, obviously, we don't want to see that to any player. But that's what it is about at this sort of level, isn't it? You've got to manage that playing budget and, you know, get your strengths in the right places, and hopefully, you know, it adds to us climbing the table and progressing in the FA Cup as well, which is what we all want.
So as promised, finally, it's the Herne Bay preview. So their #1 goalkeeper, Harry Brooks, he started his career at Ebbsfleet. He then had time at Whitstable, Sittingbourne, Ramsgate, Sheppey, Tunbridge Wells, Chatham, Hollands and Blair, time in Norway and Sweden, so fairly well travelled. It's currently in his 3rd season with the Bay, and Carter Wilson is a youth product from the under-23s. Brooks the regular between the sticks this season, so they've got their settled #1 there, Nigel.
Yeah, I'm taking it's not the Harry Brooks that's just scored a century against the Aussies as a cricketer.
I don't think so.
But hands. I mean, yeah, you do get that at this, especially at that sort of level, the scaffold level. You know, a lot of these goalkeepers, I wouldn't say journeymen, but they've been around all the clubs, you know, and you know, all the local clubs. So, you know, again, it's going to be like we've said many times this season. You know, you can look at these players and you can look at their form and you can look at what they do in the regular season games, but this is not a regular season game. This is Maidstone United, FA Cup 5th round last year. You know, they're going to raise their game. They're at home as well. You know, they're expecting one of their biggest crowds they've had. So, you know, you could do all the scouting that you want, but it's going to be sort of like, we've got to just put that much pressure on these players, because obviously they're playing at that level for a reason, especially the goalkeeper. So if we can sort of test them early, you know, don't let them settle into a sort of like a pattern and a rhythm of stuff, then, you know, we should be all right. But yeah, it's like any good side, isn't it? You get your settled goalkeeper in place, obviously they try and breed that confidence into the rest of the squad.
So in defence, Liam Friend spent 10 years with Folkestone Invicta, made nearly 550 appearances for them. He's in his 2nd season now with the Bay. Tom Hanfrey's come through the academy ranks at AFC Bournemouth, also in his 2nd season, since signing from Carshalton Athletic. Joel Odeniran has experience with Dover and Folkestone. Jack Parter has plenty of Kent-based experience with Ramsgate, Gillingham, Whitstable and Tunbridge. He captained the side against Ayr Town on Tuesday in the Kent Senior Cup. Syke Salmon has Margate and Billericay on his books before. Frankie Smith is in his 2nd season with the Bay. He signed in July 2023. He scored in that Kent Senior Cup game on Tuesday. So plenty of local and experienced pros there, Nigel, from the Kentish scene. Yeah,
and again, you know, when you look at the manager there, Steve Lovell, again, he's, you know, he lives local. He's got many local links. He's managed Gillingham before, and the coaching staff that he's got down there with him, they're going to be, you know, not tapping these players up, but they're going to be knowing these players and getting them, you know, to come and play for Herne Bay. I think they only sort of got relegated from the Isthmian Premier League season before last, I believe. So you know, they're probably on a little bit of a rebuild from that. You know, they hit that height, they got up through the playoffs, and they had that one season in the Eastern Premier, but they got relegated. So you'd have thought that a lot of those players would have wanted to either stay at that level or move on to progress their careers. And with Steve Lovell coming in from another Kent club, Ramsgate, last season, you know, you're going to bring players with you from that local scene, aren't you? And as you mentioned there, a lot of them have got that sort of experience of playing down on the east coast there of the county with Ramsgate and Folkestone and the likes. So again, it's just about sort of building those bonds and those relationships, isn't it? And you know, if you trust a manager, you're going to go where the manager goes, aren't you?
Yeah. So in the midfield, Dan Carrington joined from Ramsgate back in 2020. He had 150 appearances for Faversham Town, and he played for Ebbsfleet Academy and had a loan period, moderately, ironically, with Erith Town, who they played on Tuesday, of course. Kayan Hassan joined on dual registration from Dartford Academy in September of last year. Kane Hasemans played for Margate, Eastbourne, Chelmsford and Sutton, amongst others. Midfielder Scott Hurd, what did he hear? He earned over 550 appearances for Whitstable Town, Folkestone Invicta across 2 spells, the Daggers and East Thurrock United. He signed for Herne Bay in February of this year. Alfie Hill is a Herne Bay youth graduate, and Mo Kamara signed for the Bay in September of last year. He's had 2 previous spells at the Bay as well. And Ukrainian Artem Kukov, he was in the junior ranks at Metalist Kharkiv when the Russian invasion broke out more than 2.5 years ago now. He scored in the Kent Senior Cup game on Tuesday against Erith Town. Joshua Reed is formerly of Lordswood. Monty Saunders is ex-Canterbury City, and he scored in that Kent Senior Cup game. Ethan Smith, another youth product via Gillingham and Sittingbourne. So a large midfield pool to call on there, Nigel, but it's that mix of experience and youth again, dare I say. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, the name that jumps out for me there is Scott Hurd. He was a loyal servant of Folkestone Invicta, wasn't he? I do believe he went to Dagenham at Redbridge at some point as well. I think he was a trialist here, maybe. I know I've heard the name somewhere. So under the Jay Saunders, Nicky Southall days, I think he's.
Sorry.
I think he has sort of, you know, he's definitely been in and around, you know, before. So, yeah, again, it's just they've got that experience of local football, isn't they? They know what it's like at that grassroots level. You know, you know, it's just that coming together, and it's like literally, you know, going back to our sort of cup run last year. You know, this could be the pinnacle of some of these players' career. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's just about whatever side they select is going to, you know, they're going to have that experience running through the core of them, aren't they? So that's before we even come on to their forwards yet.
Indeed. So talking of those forwards, striker Kane Rowland started with Margate and Whitstable Town. He's been a prolific goal scorer for Sittingbourne and Ramsgate. He joined Herne Bay in July of last year. Michael Solarco joined Herne Bay around the same time from Malden and Tiptree. His previous clubs include Wrighting Leasey Regent, Basildon United, Holbridge Sports, Corinthian Casuals, Tooting and Mitcham United, Walton and Hersham, and Bowers and Pitsea. And he's scored 6 in 11 so far this season as well for Stat fans. Samuel Sarpong's another youth product. Sam Wright is currently dual registered with Kennington. So there's some scorers who know their way around the Kent leagues and some new faces in there as well, Nigel.
Yeah, exactly that. Running on that theme, isn't it? Kane Rowlands is another one that, you know, just knows the level, knows, you know, he's a proper, you know, your proper sort of like number 9 that's going to roll his sleeves up, get stuck in, back of the sort of like, you know, the dark arse kind of thing they call it, don't they? You know, like the sort of J May kind of player that we had many years ago, or a few years ago now, and they're just, you just got to be aware of all these players. You know, we can't go into it with the attitude of like we're Maidstone United. You know, and George has come out and alluded to that in the press this week.
About the 20% more.
Exactly, and he's been saying that since the cup run last year. And it's not just the sort of players that have got to realise that that's the case and raise their game. You know, look at the fan bases. You know, the Herne Bay fan bases. It's a good tie for them in a home game against Maidstone United.
Massive.
The referees and all their assistants as well.
Yeah.
You know, this is a game for them. You know, they're in that sort of spotlight. So if you're an up-and-coming referee, you're going to want to, you know, prove yourself, aren't you? And we know from the past that sometimes, you know, doesn't exactly go in our favour. Yeah. But it's you've got to rise above that. Don't get lowered down, because sometimes when you're playing these sides, especially away from home, you can easily get down to their level and just trying to sort of tit for tat the sort of like cheap fouls and that. You know, just let our talent and our experience come to the fore, and I'm sure we'll be fine. But you know, I'm sure George will have the players drilled for it. Just got to know where the dangers are, know where the threats are, and be able to sort of capitalise on that with our experience, our threats, and you know, like we've said in all these ties, you know, get an early goal. You know, that's the key to it. You get an early goal, don't sit back, go for it, and that was what we built our cup run on last year against these sides like Winchester and Stenning. You know, getting that early goal settles everybody down and just quiets that home fan, that raucous home fans, and you know, you can then, you know, set the tempo of the game that you want to play rather than playing to their tempo and their, you know, or slowing it down to their tempo. So yeah, it's going to be a clash of styles, a clash of like cultures, and you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can come out on top.
So we've talked about the players. Let's look at the form of the Bay. Well, they beat all three bridges, 3-0 in the FA Trophy. They were rewarded with a trip to Chichester City in the next round. Their league form has been quite scarce, frankly. They've only been able to play 3 of the matches in that division. 11 matches overall this season, so 8 cup games already. 8 cup games, it sounds familiar, Stones fans. Unbeaten at the Crest Stadium since April, culminating in that 5-1 win. Have I mentioned they won 5-1 against Derry Town on Tuesday night in the Kent Senior Cup? I might have mentioned it once or twice. They only conceded 2 in their last 7 games now as well. So they're 2 steps below the Stones, Nigel, so they're playing at a lower level, but possibly some higher expectations from them with that form behind them.
Yeah, I mean, one of those, you know, the last round they beat a team from higher up. They beat Hendon 3-0, I think it was, and that was Hendon's biggest defeat for a few years. I saw like a stat. So yeah, that's the thing with the lower levels. Where they play the Kent Senior games, they play the FA Trophy qualifiers, they play the FA Cup qualifiers, and then they play the Isthmian Knockout Cup thing, whatever they play. You know, they're literally playing more cup games than they play league games at this point. Unless you get knocked out early, if you go on a bit of a run, you can go months without ever playing a league game. So in that respect, it's, you know, they're having like 3 or 4 cup finals all on the back of each other, where they can just literally go for it and not have to worry about building that form, can they? So again, it's going to be like we've said with many of these games, it's going to be a free hit for them, isn't it? You know, they're at home, they're going to have a big crowd behind them, and as long as we go in there knowing what to expect, we should be fine. But again, it's just that magic of the FA Cup again, isn't it? You know, it's there for at all levels of the game, and that's the beauty of the FA Cup. It's just about guarding against that, and you know, just going on. I don't know if you're going to come on to it in a minute, but just a quick stat. You know, going on from the legacy, as we call it now, from the FA Cup last year. You know, we've got to basically underline that performance now and get to the first round, haven't we? Because otherwise we're going to be history makers in the fact that we're going to be the first team that's played in the 5th round of the FA Cup and not qualified for the next season's FA Cup, which, you know, is a crazy thing, but it's just because of what we achieved last year. It just puts the whole magnitude of that achievement of what we did last year, and it probably puts a little bit of pressure on the team that we've got now, because where the likes of Sam Cornwich, Greenwich and Cipriani have got those memories, you know, for the new players that have come in, like Aaron Blair and Ben Brooks, you know, they've got something to live up to now, isn't it? They've got direct sort of like everybody's comparing this team to last team, you know, and they're good players in their own right. So, you know, they don't need any of that extra pressure, but you know, it's natural you're going to do that, and you know, it's how they cope with that. And they, you know, and we said it before, playing for Maidstone, you're not just playing for a National League South team. You're a big draw at this level. You know, you might as well be playing for Barcelona and Real Madrid. You know, that sort of like coming from that sort of, although you're in the same league as these teams, you're a big draw, and it's how they cope with that and that expectation that's on them from the fan base. So there's a lot of little sort of subplots and intriguing sort of mind games that are there. So it's all good stuff, and it's just got to be patient and just sort of go with it. We all want to get that journey again, don't we? You know, it's like a drug that you've tasted it once and you want it again. So
So a quick stat attack then of the opponent's FA Cup history. The Bay have reached the 4th qualifying round only twice before, hence only ever winning 2 third qualifying round matches. You get the idea. They lost to Margate 1-0 in 1970 and to Farnborough Town 4-0 in, it was a very good year, 1986. Hoping to reach the 4th qualifying round for the 3rd time with a win over the Stones. So the Stones' own FA Cup 3rd qualifying round record is bit better than Herne Bay's. It includes a famous 7-0 home win 50 years ago, roughly about this time of year, against Medway. The whole region just took it all on at once, got it done. And they also had a thrice played cup tie against Crawley Town that culminated in a 4-1 second replay win. This side of the millennium, or after the original club, as some might say. We had the Winchester away win last season, of course, and hoping for the same again this year. It's been 21 years since a replay in the 3rd qualifying round. Stones went on to lose at Bishop Stortford on that particular occasion, so we'll see if the no replay record changes either way on Saturday. Any memories, thoughts, particular moments from 3rd qualifying round matches for you, Nigel?
No, not really. You know, it's one of those sort of in the middle runs, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You don't.
Not quite the start, not quite the end.
Yeah, exactly.
Most
You
of the time.
remember the 4th qualifying round because you know, if you win that game, you're in the 1st round proper, and if you get knocked out in the 2nd qualifying round, you generally get the 1st game, and you're sort of like, oh, okay, that's the FA Cup over. I mean, probably one of the ones that does stick out is not for the good reasons. Is obviously a few years ago when we first got relegated from the National South, we'd gone away and beat Chichester in the 2nd qualifying, and then we come here and we lost 4-0 to Dartford, didn't we?
The 3-0 game, yeah. It was 3-0.
Was it?
'Cause I remember Steve King being ever so polite and
Yeah,
asking for
I know.
some footage after the game.
And the
which had
fans
nothing
were,
to do
you know,
with-
not
yes.
nice, and it was all sort of like. But you know, it all turned out good in that season because we went on and won the league, and
Yes.
and I think we beat them as well, didn't we? In the home game just before
That was the
Christmas.
4-0
Yeah, that was the
for
4-0. I
us,
knew
yes.
there was somewhere
There
like
you go.
that.
There's a 4 in there somewhere, usually is.
So yeah, so you know, like I say, it's just one of those sort of like nothing round, isn't it? Where you don't really remember much about it because it's just one of those in the middle sort of things.
It's just hoping it's memorable for the right reasons
Exactly.
on Saturday.
Exactly that.
So a quick health check of the National League South sides in the FA Cup 2nd qualifying round. Torquay lost 3-0 at Bishop's Cleeve. Eastbourne Borough were knocked out by Boreham Wood, both from the same division, of course. Enfield Town lost by a 0-0 at home to Peterborough Sports. The previously mentioned Bishop Stortford knocked out National League South leaders Hemel Hempstead. Horsham beat Dorking, again, as you do. Hampton and Richmond depart thanks to the Stones. Brackley Town won at Truro. Walton and Hersham saw off Farnborough, and Chatham won at Welling. So that's 9 of the other 23 National League South sides already departed. So it's still a fair few fixture rearrangements possibly needed next month. So it's quite a few big losses from the 2nd qualifying round in the South, at least there, Nigel.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, Dorking, I don't think they've ever made the 1st round, and that's the magic of the FA Cup right there, isn't it? Again, 2 years on the trot, they've played Horsham and they've lost both times. Torquay, I think, was probably the most standout one, losing to Bishop's Cleeve there. Yeah. I know they're local rivals, but again, that just underlines what we've just been saying. It's the same similar step to what we're playing away at Herne Bay. Nobody even looked at that game as a potential banana skin. The way Torquay have started the season, and look what happened. You know, you just take your eye off the ball for, you know, it only takes one instant, doesn't it? Get behind, and then they've suddenly got the momentum there at home, and you know, the local crowd are baying for blood, kind of thing, and you're in the Lions' den and literally with your head between the lion's mouth, sort of thing, and it just shows you what that formula with that magic of the FA Cup is. It's about getting it right, doing a professional job, and then moving on. It's not about, you know, playing well. I mean, if we pop up with a last minute like we did against Hampton and Richmond, it doesn't matter, does it? The papers say, you know, the facts will say that you progress. So that's what it's all about. You know, it's not about performance. It's not about, you know, putting on a show. Of course, it'd be nice, give us that little bit of momentum, but it's a one-off game, so it's just about getting the job done.
Yeah. So the head-to-head between the two sides, the Stones did the double over Herne Bay in the 2012-13 season, a 2-0 home win and a 3-1 win at Herne Bay. The last and only FA Cup meeting so far was a 1971 second qualifying round 3-0 home win for the Stones. Do you see the Stones repeating the trick on Saturday, make the fourth qualifying round for a 9th time in their last 11 attempts, or do you think Herne Bay can turn the tide finally?
No, I think we'll be all right. Well, we're saying all the right things, aren't we? And we have seen, we've talked about it since like the Bournemouth game, really. I know we've obviously had that Chelmsford game in there, but
The C word.
yeah, but we are the new additions that we've got in. You can see that they are, having a positive effect on the squad and on the side. So hopefully, with none of those being cup tied, and with us having as George has again said in the press, we should have a fully fit squad available for selection. It should, fingers crossed, it should be all right. I don't think George is going to let them sit on their laurels. So again, it's like what I said. The new players that have come in, hopefully that experience of last year from the older players will rub off on the new players. They'll up their game as well. It's not just about Herne Bay up in their game. This is Maidstone United. You're playing for Maidstone United. So these new players, they want that taste of that success.
That's why they're here.
Exactly that. So these games like this is when you've got to stand up and be candid as such. So hopefully George will drum that into them, and we should be okay.
So if you can't make it to the Crest Stadium on Saturday, tickets going fast, be sure to tune in to Chris and Fred from 2:40 on Stones Live. You'll see them on the hot take and hear them on the highlights once they go online a few hours after the game. So another cup run coupled with another game on the road, a pair of welcome distractions from some troublesome home league form, hopefully extending the current unbeaten run. Well, we'll see. Thanks for watching the latest preview. Enjoy the coastal breeze on Saturday. And as always,
come on, you Stones!